Okay, everyone, Celtic are back, and Scott McDonald is back on the channel as well. Long time no speak, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Good to see you again after what has been a busy month for everyone outside of you, Hamish, in terms of World Cup. It's been excellent to watch, but good to see the Hoops back on the weekend.
Do you remember those days when Celtic went and played a few games in Australia? Can you think that far back?
Do you know what? It does feel a long time ago because a lot's happened since then, particularly for me. I've been very busy, but yeah, it was excellent, obviously, having them here, and it went particularly well, albeit the results weren't great for Celtic. But I think overall the event itself was a successful one for the club itself and for the fans that are over here. They turned out in great numbers and thoroughly enjoyed themselves in what was a wonderful day as well against Everton at the Accor Stadium and the new stadium that they played Sydney FC at as well. And I was lucky enough to do what you normally do and interview Ange. And it was yeah, and some of the boys as well. It was a great event that we had for the fans and Adidas with JD Sports. So yeah, overall it was just a wonderful event.
Yeah, you were doing everything. You were broadcasting, you were spending time with the team, you were, as you say, hosting events with Ange and the players, enjoying the games as well. For you personally, how was it being kind of back with Celtic almost?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was yeah, quite emotional probably for the family and myself. It was nice for my son to meet all the players and be a part of that because he looks up to them all, and it was nice to obviously have access to everyone. And I must say, everyone was more than welcoming and brilliant. And he had a little laugh. Greg Taylor particularly was very entertaining. And trying to convince him that was someone better than me in the team. I won't name that player, but yeah, he tried to convince him, but I don't think my son was having it too much. I think he's still happy with McDonald on the back, so keeping his dad happy.
Fantastic. And you think we'll be back anytime soon?
I certainly hope so, and I believe so. Obviously, speaking to some of the chairman was there and whatnot, and they were delighted by the turnout and obviously how they were well looked after over here in Australia. And yeah, look, I think there could be bigger games on the cards if they were to come from what the event holders were talking about, and exciting if they were to come off. But I don't think it will be the other half of Glasgow coming still. I don't think that's ever going to happen anytime soon with the organisers, I can tell you that.
Yeah, definitely. Right, good stuff. We'll talk about current issues then, guys. At the weekend, Asim, we got our victory. Left it late. It seems to be the Celtic way at the moment to beat Aberdeen. I guess winning was all that mattered on the day.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the preview, wasn't it? That we just wanted to get the points on the board. I called it wrong. I thought Aberdeen would come and have a go. They did anything but. It's one of those games. I think at the time it was probably more. You're as a fan, you're getting frustrated as time goes on. You're wondering, are we going to break them down? In hindsight, you watch it back, and I thought it was a pretty controlled, dominant performance. And just yeah, it was one of those again. I think you just have to just trust the players and trust the manager now that they know what they're doing. There was times during that game I'm like, we need to move it quicker. We need to be a bit more, maybe have a few more shots on goal. But I think Ange alluded to it in the aftermatch as well. It's just having that belief that they'll never change their style, and they just believe that if they keep on doing that, wearing teams down, they'll eventually get that chance and that goal. And I think it was a big win. It was, it's one that we earmarked before the game as potentially a really difficult one. So for me, it was just like about getting the 3 points. So I was delighted when Cal scored, and yeah, it's a huge victory on the way.
Surprised at all, Scott, about Aberdeen's tactics, given they're the kind of third best team in the country, allegedly?
Yeah, I was. I was very disappointed with their setup and their performance itself, being at the moment the third best team in the country. Uh, as the league table says, to be at home in front of your home fans. Look, they've copped a lot of stick for it afterwards in the aftermath. Yes, there were 3-4 minutes from getting a point from the game itself, so that's always going to be the argument. However, what was really interesting was when they went 1-0 down, all of a sudden they started attacking, and you've seen the threat that they could pose to Celtic. So when you look at it like that and you go, should we have had a crack at it? You lose 1-0 and a negative like that, you're always going to basically say shoulda, woulda, coulda. And I'm disappointed for the league, disappointed for the exposure of that game. I'm watching that in Australia, and so is everyone else. And you see that it was just like, I think Willie Miller even said it on radio, that it was just waves of attack like training. It was that easy for Celtic at times. And look, Celtic had chances. Kyogo's chance particularly in the second half early on was absolute sitter, wasn't it? The one where he tries to guide it rather than just put his foot through, side foot all the way through the ball. And I'll be honest with you, it was like re-watching Celtic over here in Sydney, the two games that they played here. It was very, very similar in terms of dominating possession, getting all the way to the opposition's 18-yard box, and just not being able to have the killer instinct in front of goal. And it must be a concern for Ange, and it must be frustrating watching it at the moment that they're just not having that killer instinct in front of goal. It's not that they don't possess the players to be able to do so. It's just that they're having that period right now where it's just not happening for them. But it's not happening, but they're winning. So that's the positive.
Yeah, I mean, the final ball as well, I think, was off a little bit at the weekend. I felt we actually got into good areas. The amount of times, our wingers, sized up their fullbacks and had space, or we got overlaps through Ralston or Taylor, and we just didn't really make enough of it. I mean, Scott says it as something that Ange, I think, will be concerned about. Is it just a case, Asim, of getting a big win, scoring some goals and getting back into the swing of things? Because as Scott says, we are still winning games.
I think as long as we're winning, we'll obviously be fine. But the concern is there that we were 3-4 minutes away, because I thought that would have been a tough game. And then when you're watching that game, you're like, this is a really poor performance from Aberdeen. So you'd be really disappointed if we didn't come away with the 3 points as you're watching that game, because I don't think I've ever seen a game at Pittodrie where we've been threatened that little. It was rare that they would even get into our half, never mind our box. So as the time's going on, you're like, right, we really should be picking up 3 points. And I think we'll have a similar kind of game. Obviously, we'll probably talk about that later tomorrow against Livingston. It'll be a similar kind of performance from the opposition. So it would be a concern if, again, we're struggling to create, because other than that Kyogo one, the rest of the efforts we had, they weren't clear-cut chances. And the way Aberdeen were sitting, they were allowing us to get into their final third easily without any kind of pressure. They were just condensing that central area. So it is just about us trying to figure out different ways that we can break teams down. And sometimes it is maybe having a few more shots outside the box. I think early in the first half, I thought there was a few instances as well where we could have maybe pulled the trigger and we didn't. We were trying to maybe play it a bit intricate. Sometimes early in a game against these teams, it might be worth having a few pops just to mix it up. Just show them that we've got different ways of breaking them down. So it'll be interesting to see how we combat that tomorrow, because again, I think it'll be a very similar type of game.
Look, I think as well for Celtic, what's really interesting, the trend I tend to see now in terms of when Celtic play against certain systems, and that system being, back 3/back 5, is where it seems to be not an issue for Celtic because they're still winning the games, but it's a bit more sticky when they play against that system, because in terms of the inverted fullbacks and where they try and create the overloads, then they try and get you 1v1s in the outsides with the wingers. It doesn't happen, because if you beat the first man, the centre-back comes across. So they've got that extra cover, and then obviously they defend their box really well. And then if you haven't got that physicality in there either, and the ball's not on the mark, which it was though for Kyogo, on the weekend it was anyway, and he missed that chance. It could have been a heavier scoreline if they had have scored that goal at that time, because Aberdeen would have had to have come out, and then that would have created the spaces for Celtic to go and kill them off. But they defended resolutely. Their goalkeeper played well, but at the end of the day, first game back, you can't complain. It's 3 points, and it's away at Pittodrie, which is always a hard place.
First game back for Callum McGregor as well. He scores that big goal. What does it mean for a squad to have their captain back after so long? Does that give you a huge boost to actually have him in the team?
Absolutely, huge boost, a trust as well. He's back. You look to your left or your right, and he's there, and he plays that well, and he scores the winning goal. It's like, right, the man's back. It's not taking him any time, but we've got him back to where he was before, and he's leading us right from the off. So I think that's a great sign for the club going forward, that he's back, and hopefully he'll be back to his best as well, and allowing O'Reilly now to try and perfect that position higher up the pitch again, because if we can get him playing in that higher end of the pitch and trying to create things and now scoring goals, that will help Celtic's cause going forward.
Yeah, just on McGregor, Asim, your thoughts on having him back and just that moment of brilliance really at the end of the game, something that we hadn't done well enough, and Forrest as well for setting him up. I thought was great, kind of underrated assist there.
Yeah. Yeah, McGregor is just so integral to our play. Like I know we'd won games and we've spoken about it how we managed to get by domestically without him, but you just see the difference he makes, and he sets the tempo. He's always the one that'll dictate whether we want to speed things up or if we want to take the sting out of a game. He's just so intelligent, and you can see, as time's gone on, he's really grown into that leader. Like there was times last season where he was the one that sets the tone. I think I remember at Ibrox when he did that run, and then again, yeah, at the weekend there. That's the kind of big moments in a season where things might not be going your way, and then the captain steps up. And I think Ange said he's feeling a bit rusty, so you could see that at times some of his passing was a bit wayward, but that'll come with Callum. So got no concerns there. And again, I do agree with Scott that it'll allow maybe us to see a bit more from Matt O'Reilly playing his natural position, because I do think that's something we want to see in the second half of the season is a few more goals from him. So I think that will probably be our midfield three for the majority of the time going forward. And yeah, it was good to see the likes of Forrest coming on and showing he can still contribute as well. So yeah, our squad's looking healthy.
Yeah, just in terms of rustiness, Scott, fans kind of talk about the first game back after the break, and you never really hear players making excuses for themselves. It always seems to be fans just saying, "Oh, it's their first game back." Allow them a bit of that. How much is that true for a player after having a layoff, certainly a month away from competitive matches, your first game back? What's it like?
Well, I think for the players itself, it's difficult to replicate what, particularly if you're a Celtic player, what you will get in the league to what you play in a friendly, because the friendlies you play in will be very open. They'll be end to end. They're just about match fitness. There's no pressure. But when you go into like back into the league situation, is that 9 times out of 10 the teams sit off you, and you have to try and break them down, and you haven't done it in a few weeks. It takes time. Sometimes it can be sticky, and yes, you're not as sharp in the brain. You'll be physically okay, but just the brain and then obviously the connection in between some of the players still as well. Some were away and coming back. It's difficult, So I just think it's a positive that they've got it out the way, and this is a really important time now for the team itself, with so many games coming up.
200 goals now we've scored in total, guys. Strangely enough, 100 of them at Celtic Park, 100 of them away from Celtic Park. I believe that's in a total of 84 matches, which is not bad going at all. At least I didn't spend 2.5 hours earlier trying to sort out all the stats to do with those goals, and the numbers now aren't adding up to 200. At least that didn't happen, guys. So we can maybe have a look at this, and I can try and sort it all by the time this video goes out. I'll ask you a few questions then, starting with an easy one. Who do you think is the top scorer out of those 200 goals? I say it's easy, but they're thinking.
Kyogo for me, I think.
It has to be Kyogo, surely, or it can't be Giakoumakis, can it? It's got to be Kyogo. I'll go with Kyogo Asim.
Kyogo has scored 31, which is number one. We've got Giakoumakis on 25, Abada's got 24. Who else has chipped in? Turnbull's got 12, strangely enough. I don't remember him scoring 12 goals. Maybe they were kind of early on. Yeah, Maida's scored 12 as well, which is a decent enough tally given that he doesn't always play. In terms of opponents, here's a fun one. Who do you think we've scored the most goals against in terms of opposition teams?
Dundee United.
Okay, would you like to guess how many in total we've scored against Dundee United?
18.
Good guess.
Was it?
Asim?
That probably 20.
22 we've scored in total against Dundee United. We've got 20 against Ross County. We've got 21 against Motherwell, your old team, Scott. We've got 15 against St Johnstone, 11 against Rangers, which is pretty good. 1 against Real Madrid, of course, as well. 143 of the 200 goals came in the league, with 13 in the Europa League proper, 4 in the Champions League proper. And types of goal. What would the most common type of goal be, guys?
That one-touch finish from Giakoumakis.
it'll be in the golden zone, won't it? It'll be one of them like
Yeah.
cutbacks to Kyogo.
Yeah, so we've had 77 goals scored with a right foot inside the penalty box, 53 with the left, 26 headers in open play, 23 from outside the box, which I think's decent, like 1 in 8 pretty much outside the box. No direct free kicks, I don't think.
I was going to say that. I feel like that's something that we don't really possess much of a threat from. Because I couldn't
Yeah.
think of any.
There was one when Juranovic, I think the ball came back off the wall and he kind of put it in the 9-0 game, but unless I'm mistaken, not a direct free kick. 8 penalties in there as well, 5 own goals. So, yeah, not bad. Putting you on the spot, favourite goal from the 200? Any stick out for you guys?
I quite like. I did like Hatate's in the route against Rangers.
Second one?
Did
Yeah.
like that one. It was just the occasion as well.
Kyogo in the cup final a year ago yesterday. That's probably my favourite. The second one, I nearly missed it as well because it just came it came so out of the blue, the chip. But aye, that's probably my favourite.
Yeah, well, I missed Lionel Messi's third on the weekend because I was at the toilet, so I know how that feels, mate. Yeah, it's Kyogo for me against Ferencvaros, the goal when Jota plays it over and he kind of one touch, that would probably be up there for me. But so scored some good goals, guys. I mean, 200 in just over a year's not bad going, Scott.
You talk about 8 penalties. Argentina had 5 in 7 games, or 8 games was it? There you go. We don't have Lionel Messi to get 5 in 8 games, do we? But yeah, just saying, 8 penalties isn't a lot, really, is it? I'm not going to add to the conspiracies. No,
We've probably had more than that, but missed a few because our record isn't great. But certainly only scoring 8. Right, we'll move on tomorrow night. Will we get a penalty against Livingston? If we do, I hope Yakimakis isn't taking it because he doesn't have a great record from the spot against Livi. Livi are famously the team that give you nightmares, Scott. I think it's fair to say. So, how are you feeling about tomorrow night? It is a home game, but it is David Martindale and the Livi double-decker bus.
I feel okay about this one. Being at Celtic Park, I think it had been away from home. We know we talk about that before. It's always a difficult place to go, but I think being at home, will he change a lot? That's the question with Ange. Is he going to change some of the personnel? I don't think so. I think he's got to just get the boys up and running, the ones that he's obviously believes in the most and wants to play week in, week out more so. But I think this will be a couple of goal victory. I can see this one being another comfortable one. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, I mean it could be difficult though. I mean, I think early goals are crucial in games against Livingston. We've got early goals in the last 2 games when we've been away from home against them, but people look at the away games and our record there, Asim against Livi, but over the years at Celtic Park since they came back to the Premiership, I mean, we've had, I think, 3 0-0s
haven't we?
at least. Yeah.
And we only had the one home game last season, which was the 0-0 against them. And they've obviously drew in Glasgow already this season. So, yeah, I think the early goal is crucial because it just changes it. The longer these teams kind of hang on, playing the way they do, quite defensively, the longer they get belief and the crowd can get frustrated. But I think just because we've had so many late goals recently, we've got that belief in the team that we can stay with them and they'll find a way through. But it would just make it so much more relaxed if we can break them down early and then they need to come out and come away from their game plan. So yeah, I think that is going to be the key in terms of changes. I think Abada might come in. I think he earns a start after his second half performance at the weekend. I thought he was a lot livelier, so that's kind of the one that sticks out for me. And Haksabanovic might be available as well, so it might be good to see him.
Not totally sure what's going on with Haksabanovic because there was murmurings of a knock at the weekend. There's this weird thing going on with the Swedish club. I don't know if you guys have seen that to do with transfer stuff a few years ago, and rumours kind of circulating about that as well. Because if he's fit, Scott, he should be getting plenty of game time. Because I thought going into the winter break or the World Cup shutdown, he was probably our best player.
Yeah, he was, and he was very good when he come over here as well to Sydney. Also, I've been impressed with him. He's getting better as the weeks have gone on, since he's got fitter as well. And he just looks like a really good foil and something different to what Celtic already had. in those attacking areas and options, that he provides. He play out wide, he can play in the 10 role. So hopefully he is fit and we can see him playing. Like Asim said, hopefully we do see him in this game contribute. But I do think Abada as well has been an excellent player for me as well, purely just with his pace and threat that he gives you when he comes on. And you touched on it as well, Hamish. I thought Jamesy Forrest done really well as well. It's good to see him back, not having any niggles. And now I think he's going to have a lot to contribute to the end of the season also.
100 assists now he's had for Celtic, as well as 100 goals, which is remarkable, isn't it? I mean, those are incredible numbers, and a man for the big moments as well. Do you think we'll continue to see this rotation from Ange that we've seen, over the last 3 months, Scott, going forward?
Yes, I do to an extent. I think while the two cup competitions are going to be around, there's going to be a lot of games that are going to come thick and fast now. Obviously, because of the backup from the World Cup now being played, there's a bit of catch up. I know we usually have the winter break, but this has been a little bit longer, so there's going to be a lot of catch ups to be played. So I think he will use his squad as a whole, and it's still yet to be determined. Look, if they're looking for anything else, obviously there's been additions made now in this transfer window, but do they still, there's rumours and links that Giakoumakis could be going, and do they bring another striker in, and does he stay and add to that quality? Look, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exciting month in theory, with rumours about Giakoumakis, more substantial chat about Josip Juranovic as well. We've already brought in Alistair Johnson, who certainly has decent pedigree from the World Cup. I thought he looked good. Kobayashi's come in as well. Ange also made these comments, Scott, I think since we last spoke to you, about a high turnover of players probably being likely at Celtic. Maybe that fans shouldn't get too attached to some of their heroes because they could leave the club. Ange seems to think that's the way that Celtic really bridge the gap, in Europe.
Yeah, he's not a sentimental type, Ange. He's not going to get too attached to players or for as well as they do for him and the club. I don't think if they're holding it back or if they can get someone better who he feels is going to improve the team, he's going to do that. So, look, if Celtic can get the finances that they want for these players, then I think it makes business sense as well. And yes, we get sentimental as supporters to certain players because you see the successful times that they give you. However, look, if there's 15 to 20 million, 15 probably people are going to tell me no about Juranovic, but look, if there's around about that mark between 15 and 20, then I think it's a great figure for a guy who's only been at the club less than 18 months. So and what they can do with that and reinvest that, hopefully that would be good for the club. And Giakoumakis is the same as a free agent, then getting the 5 or 6 million or so be it that's been sort of said in the papers. Doesn't make for bad business either from Celtic.
I think in the past when big name players have been threatening to leave the club, there's been a big worry about what happens next. I mean, when Edouard left, for example, there was big fears over can we replace him. I think there's just such faith from the support at the moment, Asim, towards Ange and the recruitment team, that if someone like Juranovic or Giakoumakis do move on, yeah, they would be big losses, but you just have real faith in Ange and the recruitment team to sign a suitable replacement. We've arguably already done it with Juranovic.
Yeah. No, you took the words out of my mouth. I think that's exactly it. In past seasons gone by, whether it's Van Dijk and Wanyama, Tierney, Dembele, you always do worry just whether we're going to reinvest that well and whether we're going to get the like-for-like replacements. Obviously, it's not always the case that you'll be able to get like-for-like or the same quality straight away, but with Ange, it does seem different, and he seems quite, like you say, he's not one that's going to get attached to players or have that kind of sentimental defensive things, because he knows in terms of trying to get better as a club, he'll be able to find someone who's, I think for him as well, a lot of it's to do with character and personality. You've seen that as already with Alistair Johnston. He just comes across as someone who's really happy to be here, who really wants to succeed, and it seems like whenever we sign somebody, it's people of similar character and personality, and I think that's really important for Ange, people that actually want to be here and grow and see the plan that we've got and the vision. And I think with Ange, he's the same. If someone's not wanting to be here or thinks that they've outgrown the club, he's more than happy to let them go and is confident that he'll be able to bring someone in of equal or even better standards. So yeah, I would have no issues with that. Of course, great players, the two of them that we've mentioned, Giakoumakis and Juranovic, but I think we can replace them.
Yes. Right. Okay. Tomorrow, Livingston. Referee Ewan Anderson, assisted by Ross McLeod and David Doig. Fourth official is Gavin Duncan. On the VAR tomorrow night, which is kind of the headline act now, isn't it? Stephen Kirkland. Assistant VAR is David Room. Hopefully VAR not in use tomorrow night like it wasn't at the weekend. A couple of questions for Scott. We've got one from G Dam, but first of all, one from me, Scott. Any good Ange stories from Sydney? Were you in the bar with him, drinking shots till late at night? That's kind of how I imagine it.
No, not quite. I don't think so. I think Ange was just run off his feet when he was here. I think he was glad to leave, more so. He was just that busy.
Just get away for you.
Here. Yeah, probably me. He's seen me enough. In the end, I had to sort of like just step away. I didn't want to be on their toes too much, but it was great to see them all and catch up with the likes of John Kennedy, my old teammate, and a few others, and still some old faces in there. But look, I think obviously that it was great to come in and watch their training and have a good conversation with Ange about things and moving forward for me as well. And just the whole event, like I said, for the family, it was great. It was a great time and good to have them here.
G-Dam asking about an Aussie, Aaron Moy. He says, given Cal Mack is back now, how much time do you see Moy getting for Celtic?
Look, I still think he'll play his part and his role. He did before Cal Mack was injured anyhow, so I think he'll fill certain games. It may be a little bit less, obviously, because Europe's not there anymore. There's not as many games, you would say, but with, like I said, with these cup competitions, if Celtic are to go deep in the Scottish Cup also, and particularly the early rounds, I think a lot of those fringe players will get certain minutes to prove themselves.
And we've got Abelgard in there as well, Asim, so it's going to be interesting, that area of the park, because people aren't really talking about him, but I think there's a player in there highly rated, but how are you going to get game time to all three of them?
Yeah, I know it's the most competitive area of the pitch right now, and I totally forgot about him as well. He's been so starved of game time. But Ange mentioned after the break he did see the likes of him and Haksabanovic, featuring more often. So I think there'll be scope. I think like maybe the cup game, Morton at home, you might see a few of those kind of players, and then it's just down to them whether they can put in a performance that then helps them keep them in the team. So yeah, we've got plenty of options, and look, for once we've not got a big injury list at all, which is great to see as well. See, everyone seems available. So if that continues, I can only see us going from strength to strength. I've got a question for Scott as well. Just obviously to touch on the World Cup, what was your thoughts in terms of Australia and just overall? I thought it was a great World Cup personally, and it was. I think Australia obviously went over and above what people probably thought they would be doing as well. So
absolutely, and it's a great testament to actually Scottish football as well, as in because there's so many of our players who are applying their trade there, even within the starting 11, and we have a few Scottish heritage players as well playing for Australia now, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Harry Souttar's had a wonderful World Cup. He's going to be linked with some big clubs now. Cumdog, maybe not so much in terms of Jason Cummings. Still giving off some good quotes on social media, I see, about Lionel Messi on the weekend, which was quite funny. But overall, yes, it was a wonderful World Cup for us and our best ever finish. And we only had 2 World Cup wins before this World Cup. So to get another 2, which quite frankly, as well, in this tournament, no one was expecting us to even, get a point at times. Tunisia everyone was thinking, oh yeah, we can get something out of that, but it's a hope more than a realization. And so for what this group's done, it's a huge achievement. Probably you would say, because the expectation of it was probably a lot less than what we did in 2006. And it's been great for the game here. The connection it's made with the supporters, and the excitement and what we've had in these open public areas, watching games and the celebrations that we've had. It shows that the energy and the passion's there for our game here, and we just need to continue to try and open doors and create new openings for the game, because it's very difficult in our country with the other codes of football, who try and sort of nullify us a little bit. But look, hopefully from this World Cup we can build on it.
Yeah, indeed. Asim, Celtic Park tomorrow. Excited to get back.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever. It has, isn't it? It's been 5, 6 weeks. So yeah, looking forward to it, and hopefully the weather's not as cold as well. So it'll be good to get back, and then we've got
Wipe that
another
smirk
one.
off your face, Scott.
Well, the cold. I'll tell you. Look, I've got a jumper on. It's still cold here, mate. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's still cold here. Even at night at least. It's not too bad during the day. It's not as cold as your lot though.
Yeah. It'll be a cold one tomorrow night. Hopefully Celtic can warm the support up with some wonderful free-flowing football and some goals as well. We will leave it there. Thanks once again for tuning in. We'll be back after the game tomorrow night with the reaction. Chat to you then.